Did I wait? You see, I'm looking at you.
I wanted to hit record, so I don't interrupt. So I hit the recording. Sorry in progress interrupts. You're welcome comments.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
All right, so we'll call this meeting to order. And there, I had to do it. All right. I will start with introductions. That's agenda item number 1. I'll go first as I am the new chair. My name is Maria RC, Petaluma Transit, and hopefully everybody will be gentle with me as I learn the ropes.
I am Charles Smith. I'm with Sonoma County Transit.
Stephen Schmidt, Sonoma County Transit.
John Gaffney, the Golden Gate Bridge Highway and Transportation District. Andrew Nichols at CTA,
Chris Barney, CTA or RCPA.
Colin Tomlin, Disability Services and Legal Center.
Brooke Cabot, I'm a temp at the County of Sonoma.
I'm Kathleen Cortez and the Area Agency on Aging, Human Services.
Dana Trey, SCTA, RCPA.
Awesome. And then we can go to those joining us by Zoom, please. Looks like we only have one.
Adam Garcia, SCTA, RCPA.
Great. And that's it, right, Drew, for online? Okay, perfect.
Looks like one other person's connecting.
Oh, okay. I'm on the spot.
member of the public, possibly by the name of Lee.
We were just doing introductions. Lee, is that right?
Yep.
Well, this brings us to item number 2 for public comment. If there is any at this time, this is public comment that are not on regular agenda items. And you can raise your hand if you're on our Zoom or in person. Just let us know. All right. So if no public comment, Drew, do we need to do a roll call? All right. Just say, do we supposed to do roll call at any point at the beginning or no?
Yeah,
Okay,
we know from the room, we do have.
when we do that.
We could continue,
Cool.
and then if there's no public comment, you can just move on to the next item.
All right, perfect. So we can move to approval of the meeting notes. These were from January 16th, 2024. Do we have any public comments or additions or changes?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I have a correction on the top of page 4. Where it says RC nominated Stephen Schmitz. That actually should be reversed, I think. Actually, yeah, it should be S. Schmitz or Stephen Schmitz nominated RC.
Yes, I just changed that, I'm realizing that now.
Okay.
My apologies.
No worries. No worries.
Awesome. Good catch. Anything else? All right, seeing if there are no comments at this time, we can move to
We'll need a motion.
motion.
for the
Oh, we have to vote.
minutes.
Motion. All right. Do we have a motion to approve the meeting
I'll
minutes?
make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right, a second. All right. And now does he do the roll?
So you can do a voice vote.
Okay.
If you have it for in person.
Okay,
We are required to do a roll call vote when we have a AB 2449 exemption, so we're participating virtually.
got it.
So yeah, so as long as you have a form in the room, you do voice vote.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. All in favor, say aye or nay. Aye. All right. See, I'm learning as we're going. All right, so let's move on to something I do know a little bit about. This agenda item number 24, which is the Transformation Action Plan 25. And then Dana, do you want me to kind of start us out to talk about
That'd be
it?
wonderful. Thank
Okay,
you.
okay, no problem. So this should be in your packet. This action plan, MTC, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, is looking for comments and feedback on. Specifically, this action plan bore out of the Blue Ribbon Task Force. This is information all in your packet. The Blue Ribbon Task Force was part of a recovery task force developed in July of 2021. And they have all these different goals about accessibility, efficiency, and a user-focused mobility network. Action 25 is a portion of that. So transit agencies have already had a chance to look at it, comment on it, talk about it. It was done in participation with us. But at this point, MTC wants further comments, needs further comments from the public about some of the the changes they're suggesting. This is in hopes to be rolled out in May of 2024. In the packet, there's information about how to submit comments, although I think we could probably also bring them to Drennan Shelton. She's the one who's kind of combining everything that we put in here. So it's an exciting, if you're into, this is exciting stuff. It's actually a really well done report. It gives a great overview of what we're currently doing with paratransit service in the Bay Area, as well as some kind of like user reports from, I think they do San Diego, they do King County to kind of see what are some of those best practices as well. And then from that report, they make some suggestions and recommendations about what they want to see happen here in the Sonoma County or the Bay Area. So I don't know how I want to start off, if there's more comments from transit agencies about the packet or what you want to draw attention to or questions. This is a discussion item.
And so this is really around establishing like eligibility. Eligibility practices for paratransit.
Exactly. So, although we all follow the same ADA rules, we all do it slightly differently, right? The way we handle the application process. Some agencies have long forms, some have short forms, some have in-person assessments, some don't do in-person assessments. Some might use, when determining eligibility, there'll be like different classes of eligibility. If it's conditional based on their, their health condition at the time. If they can have auto renewal, which is a shorter form when it comes time to recertify and they expire. So this is really just looking at standardizing those. Other points on it?
My only concern from the district's point of view is the increasing the application of trip condition eligibility. Trip by trip eligibility is not something that the district we're looking to do. I just want to state that out loud.
It's one of the, I remember that at one point it was gonna be certification was gonna be from 3 years to 5 years. Is that still in the?
Yeah, so some of the recommendations we're already doing in Sonoma. So for example, it's on page and there's 2 page numbers. So I'll go with 40/31. They wanted, one of the recommendations is to set the eligibility outcomes for permanent and increase from 3 years to 5 years, but we've already done that at this point. So it's already been updated in red. So some of the changes agencies in the BayPAC meeting, which is a working group for transit agencies, said we can do that now. We don't need to wait. That sounds like a best practice. Another thing, at least in Sonoma, that we've done with, I think, City Bus, Sonoma County, and Petaluma, is to have one eligibility form, one application. So that's another recommendation to take that same application across the Bay Area. A few other changes we can look at, or if there's other comment about concerns with them. So the recommendations, like I said, are on 39/30 page of your packet. Near-term recommendations, standardizing the application process. Let's see. Interview protocols, standardizing the appeals process for when somebody is denied, exploring in-person options for certain disability categories. So this would be if you had somebody doing an assessment, you would think of a different form of assessment if their disability was something that you couldn't see necessarily every day, every hour, seizure or something of that effect. And I do agree about the, I think the conditional eligibility, some of the concerns around that are if we have conditional eligibility, for example, I can't ride when it's too dark out. It puts a big strain on the dispatchers that we hire to go, and schedulers to go ahead and schedule that information, because now they're having to not only be trained on how to schedule a ride, but also to check the weather report and then making a determination, is this too dark? Is this too light? So I think these are valid concerns we'd have to address.
Yeah, and even more concerning for me is condition based on distance and terrain. Your average scheduler is not going to know the terrain for every trip. There are a couple places in the country that do it, but only a couple places in the country that do it. So I have trouble with that being stated as a best practice.
Mhm.
As a non-transit.
That's what we need. That's what we need. We know what we know.
Some of the things were a little bit confusing for me, like in reading the report. It says that, like the appeal process you mentioned, that it's required, but under city bus, it says there's none. So how does somebody appeal if it's a requirement to have an appeal process and there's no way to appeal? How is that?
I
Mm,
don't understand. Is that a mistake?
Where does it say? Does
Yeah,
it say
what
it?
page is it on?
There's a standardized appeals process section, right?
Right, but they do a preliminary, like, look at all of our agencies. So I don't know if there's a section about city bus specifically.
I would have a feeling that's a typo.
I would think so too, because
There
it
were
is.
a couple that had none in there. Yeah, it's on page 25 or page 16.
Okay.
I can't tell what's the page number.
Appeals
Maybe
model.
it's Page 16 of the document, but.
Yeah,
25 was a packet.
says there's no appeals model. City goes, so just wondered how that could be.
Yeah, so they're required to have an eligibility. Maybe they didn't select one and they don't have a committee.
Perhaps someone marked it because they haven't had any in a long time. There should be a process in place and the FTA does check when they come out to do our triennial review.
Yeah, it's a requirement.
And then Stephen, I had a question too on page 11, 2011. There's a table there about the permit eligibility rate. And it says that there's 0% for Sonoma County Transit. And I just wondered how that could be, nobody's permanently disabled in Sonoma County.
I think that we do require everybody to be recertified. It was every 3 years. We've extended that to 5 years. But I think as part of this process, we are going to start. We will consider a permanent where it's warranted, permanent certification. I mean, that would reduce our workload as well as make it easier for the paratransit client. So I think we will look at that. But currently we don't have anybody that's permanently certified forever. Right.
And the terms are kind of confusing because permanent in this context actually means the opposite of what you would think it would mean. Permanent means that they get a long form again after that expiration, where auto renewal means they get a shorter form typically. But again, each agency does this slightly differently.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the thought of this is like to just get comments on it and then what happens after that? Somebody makes a decision or?
So it's being presented to the Blue Ribbon Task Force. So this is our chance to say, this isn't going to work. As transit agencies, as the public, these are things we're concerned about. How are we going to do it? So we really do need any kind of input, even if it's just simply concerns. Even I know Drennan's mentioned things that are confusing in here. She wants, or MTC really wants this to be a publicly digestible document. And we're so inundated with transit, we don't quite know what doesn't make sense to transit employees. So if there's something that's unclear, then she would want to know, and it doesn't have to be at this time, it could be later. But I see you're just looking for these comments as soon as possible. Yeah. I will say, there is one thing I'm excited about that's in here that I hope continues to stay, which is on 41/32, I keep calling it, but host paratransit eligibility trainings annually to enhance eligibility evaluator skills. Right now, as far as I know, it's really reliant on the transit operators to train in-house, but sometimes the person who's there to train is no longer there and they rely on other agencies. So this would be a nice addition for sure. We at Petaluma Transit do have some concerns about the long-term recommendations around in-person assessments due to the small, staff level that we have. To start doing in-person assessments would be a fairly high cost burden, which is reflected in the report, but.
That's a longer term.
Exactly. It's one of the longer term.
Make it a super long term.
Yeah, exactly.
Things I noticed, Maria, is that they ask about mobility management and whether transit operators would consider that as part of their service platform or whatever. And I was very happy to see that you said yes. Not so happy about you guys not being that, but I can see it's staff intensive and just keeping up on what's available. But it prompted the question, I was just training Brooke and we were just kind of going over things and she's brand new, never has really been exposed to this type of environment, but she has experienced with the paratransit, people who ride paratransit. And the question was when you're talking to people on the phone and it says that you offer them alternate services, and I'm just wondering in Sonoma County, what are the options if for like a wheelchair rider? So if they don't qualify for paratransit or they can't get on paratransit, what options do you offer them for wheelchair transportation?
Well, the obvious, yeah, and that's not an easy one to answer. We certainly try to help them with travel training for fixed route if that works for them. And then other agencies that we refer to, we don't deny a heck of a lot of people.
We actually don't deny anyone.
We haven't denied it.
We haven't denied
It's gotten here.
anyone.
Yeah.
So most people get approved for full service. Or basically, conditional navigational, which means whenever your disability might prevent you from using a fixed route, you'll get approved for paratransit. So someone with, like say PTSD or seizures, like an invisible disability, they'll get approved for that certain category of conditional, but effectively in practice, it's just like full service. So the only time that we put some kind of restrictions on them is if they're outside of the service area. So that's the only situation where.
But you still don't deny them at that point. It's just you make them aware that they're outside the service area. They have to come into the service area.
Right.
Because it just, I mean, if that's one of the recommendations that you offer them alternate services, I mean, what are the alternate services for wheelchair transportation in Sonoma County? There's none
Yeah.
that I know of,
Yeah.
and
And
that's a problem. If people are gonna get denied.
Yeah, nothing
Right?
that's inexpensive.
Right. Private transportation or some kind of non-emergency medical transportation.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
At Petaluma, we'll work with like volunteer organizations, but to your point, their ability to transport somebody in a wheelchair is
Right.
limited. But it sometimes helps just kind of, they start talking to them, there might be some other services available. I know that Age Friendly, I was just at a recent Age Friendly, workshop, and we were talking about having, using really that one spot of information for transit options. Then we get a little more awareness of what the need is, and hopefully, especially for those out of the service area, I think those are the ones that are really, really rough.
Also, part of the action plan, MTC has stated that they will assign a mobility manager in each county. Stay tuned on details for that, because we've asked them, what will that person be in charge of if there are no programs to manage, things like that. But overall, the vision is to have one in each county. Formerly having done that for Marin Transit, it is difficult when you don't have the programs to go out and try to promote transit when all you can tell them is paratransit and fixed route. So.
Right. Yeah, I saw that, and that's been in the coordinated plan, and wonder, does anybody know what's going on with the coordinated plan?
I think it's getting very close, and I've periodically checked in with Drennan Shelton at MTC about giving an update to this group, and she is told me it's coming soon.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Because I know one of the requirements for the 5310 grant, which we usually apply for, is the thing, whatever project you pick has to be in the coordinated plan, and the coordinated plan hasn't been updated since 2018.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of new innovative things that you could do, but we can't do it because it's not in the plan. So it's just like, what's going on?
I sit on the review committee for it, so.
I was on that task
yeah.
force, and then it just.
It kind of fizzled out. I haven't heard
And then,
anything lately.
Yeah, it did fizzle out.
Yeah.
Anyway. we can advocate for getting that, or maybe a presentation, what's in there, that would be great.
I know Drennan usually tries to keep it as general as possible, so that most things would apply.
Well, I know we scored 100 out of 100 in our mobility management project, and it was to have a mobility management manager, so stay tuned. We'll see if that pans out.
Maybe MTC will fund it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Money in the
It will make it happen,
credit.
right? Exactly. Exactly. Any other questions or comments on this? Again, you know, we want to get those to Drennan, Shelton, but if there's anything additional?
What is her deadline for a comment?
I think she gave us a super hard deadline. Let me see. I feel like I noted something. They want to roll it out in May of 2024. That doesn't help. Let's see. Later this spring, she said, is when the final draft report would be presented. So I know that transit I think we had our window, although I'm sure we could submit more. And then comments from the public.
Probably investigating and.
I think so. Yeah.
They're bringing it to the general managers.
What was that?
Oh,
I believe they're bringing it to the general managers on Monday.
Okay, okay. Mhm, mhm. All right, no other questions online, so can we move to the next agenda item? All right, this is agenda number 5, coordinated claim for transit funding. This is an action item and I'm not sure who's reporting on it, but I'm
I'll
assuming you.
report on this.
There we go.
So this is the annual coordinated claim for transit funding. It covers the distribution of the Transportation Development Act, State Transit Assistance and Measure M funds for operators in Sonoma County. And we are following the same formulas as we have in the past for all 3 funding sources. Within the claim, there's documentation on some interagency agreements for various different services. Let's see. I think that most of you are very familiar with this. But I'm happy to answer any questions. The total funding in the coordinated claim is around 51.5 million. And the action is to make a recommendation for the SCTA Board of Directors, which will be hearing this item at its April meeting. This was reviewed by the Transit Technical Advisory Committee and approved by them. So we're actually looking to our non-transit agencies to make a motion on this item. Yeah, there's a lot of detailed provided in the report, but if there are specific questions,
I of course have questions.
Okay, great.
Being a non-transit person, I find it very confusing. So on page 52, we're talking about SMART. Because SMART's never represented and it's kind of an anomaly to us that don't interact with it. It says SMART's claim for its prior STA funds will go to MTC in May. Why are SMART's funds going to?
Okay, so yeah, so the coordinated claim essentially provides the numbers for the transit agencies for each fund source to go and then make a claim to MTC to actually receive the funding. Okay. So this is kind of like it documents the distribution. There's documentation in the STA coordinated claim about SMART's prior year funding, and since it hasn't been claimed, it's showing a lot of funding from the prior year for SMART. And that's just because it hasn't processed yet.
Okay.
But we wanted to make a note about it because we want to demonstrate that they're planning to use the funding and they have submitted their claim to MTC. It's it's not just being left there, so
Okay.
that's what that is referring to.
And yeah, so my other just question about SMART, I mean, I hear from all the transit operators and I know that everybody, staff shortages, all the issues that we have or you have as transit providers, but when it comes to SMART, they're never represented and they never, we don't know. And from my perspective and looking at just giving them a percentage off the top, when they're only servicing 4 of our 9 cities, they're not servicing any of the equity priority areas. They're not serving our transportation deserts, Cloverdale, Russian River, West County, coastal. Just to give them a blanket percentage without any kind of data. I went to their website, I looked at the data, I cannot see the data that's there is maybe good for somebody, but to me, it tells me nothing. Their number of wheelchair riders are in the single digits each day. They're not serving paratransit. I say give the money to SCT that serves paratransit and public transit and the majority of the county. And, I don't know about SMART. I think that's a lot to give them 50% of, or whatever the percentage was when they're just serving such a small minority and not anything to do with equity, and from my opinion, but I don't know because I've never heard them speak or interact with us here.
I think what you're seeing in the coordinated claim is Measure M funds. All right.
So
Or
there's
they get some
two-
STA too.
Yeah, there's 2 pieces of funding that did go to SMART. One is Measure M funds. They in Measure M, there's 5% of the measure that goes to SMART, and that is actually for capital, like construction of the rail system. As you know, Measure M has about a year left on it, and that is over. They're not included in the GoSonoma funding. And then the STA funding, SMART has off the top portion based on performance. So it's based on their share of countywide transit revenue hours and countywide ridership. And so they're getting 8.78% of the STA funding. So that comes out to about $920,000 out of the entire pot out of the STA funds. They're getting that piece plus 5% of the Measure M funding. And then I'll speak a little bit about why they don't generally come to this meeting. The TPCC rules require any transit agency that receives TVA funding, which is the larger pot of money in this coordinated claim, to participate in paratransit coordinating committees. If there's ever a topic that that the committee wants SMART to be here for and would like to hear from them for, we're more than happy to request that they come and write a presentation or have a discussion. But they're not required to come to this committee, and I guess secondly to that, since they're a rail operator, they're not required to have parallel paratransit service.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys have thoughts, but my thought is when you look at a funding formula and your priority is equity and it's in your mission statement, then why are you, I don't know, it's a disconnect for me that they're not servicing our equity areas, and I didn't see any data on their website about, older adults, people with disabilities. I mean, who's riding the SMART train?
Well, and then that they have their own $0.25 sales tax that is not part of a coordinated claim, so that's
Goes directly to them.
yeah.
So I don't know, I mean, I hear all of our people here struggling for resources, and we know that our population, you know, people with disabilities and older adults aren't being served to the extent that they could be if we had the funding to extend the services or do a pilot project or something like that. So I would recommend to review those formulas and really look at, you know, who's not being served and how could we serve them better.
The STA formula is like a state mandated formula, or is that through MTC, you know, Dana?
So there's a state piece, which is the
Oh, right.
revenue-based portion of
And the population.
STA. The population-based portion, which the total is 8 million, a little over 8 million. That is what SCTA has discretion over how it's split up among the transit operators. So it's, again, it's a smaller piece of that STA funding. We have discretion over.
How much is that, of that goes to Smart?
That is 920,000.
Oh, that is. So
Yeah.
They get a bigger chunk from the regional.
Yes, they get a much larger piece of STA funding through the revenue-based portion.
Well, appreciate the sentiment.
Yes, I was gonna say, yes, yes.
And I can also just note that we have SCTA has plans to review the formulas for both the STA and the TDA fund sources this year and make a recommendation for making some adjustments for next year. But our staff recommendation for this year is to hold the formulas as they have been in the past.
Okay.
Are there any further comments or questions? Maybe somebody online? All right, looks like we're looking for a motion to approve then.
Let me just comment so quick. Can you hear
Have a
me?
comment? Yeah. No.
Thank you. I'm sorry for late because I've been hanging on another meeting, so it took a little bit longer. The only thing update we got from the city, as you know, is also Yuri's not going to be here because he is out of the office for the whole week. So hopefully he can join the next time. So the only update for the city they received 3 paratransit vehicles and they are in inspection right now. That's very good news for us because we're desperate for a replacement. As we would say all the time, it's not an add-on to the paratransit buses, it's a replacement to the one that we already have. 2 of them is already retired, and then we're gonna retire the 3rd one, so there's gonna be replaced for that. That's the good news, and that's all that happened actually so the last time. Paratransit ridership picked up, which is very good news too. We have the numbers going up. We're not closed yet to before COVID, but we get in there. And if there is any question about the paratransit or the city part, I can answer as much as I can.
I think we're on agenda 5, item, what is it? 6, but I know when we were talking about the transformation action plan, there was a question about the appeal process for Santa Rosa City Bus for eligibility. Because it states there is no appeal process.
So right now, the evaluation done by a 3rd party, I think they call them peer evaluators. So the appeal, usually they send it to the city and then the city forward to the company to do it. But I never heard them the last maybe few months is for anybody who being denied an appeal or not even look at his file, because whoever say anything, Yuri is very meticulous about it, and he looked at it and follow up with it. And if there is a specific case, just forward, and then we can look at it.
Great, thank you.
So it sounds like there's a process, but there haven't been any appeals.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
Misunderstood question.
Yeah.
yeah, okay, wonderful. So motion
I'm
to.
happy to come back to item 5.
Okay.
And get a motion.
Yeah, that'd be great. So let's return back to agenda item number 5 for the coordinated claim. This to be a non-transit person, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. For looking for a motion to approve.
Motion, but I said I wish you would review the formula.
We could take that as a,
Sure.
a motion with a recommendation to
Mhm.
review.
Formula, yeah.
All right. All right. And we have a second.
Colin?
Colin?
Yeah.
Austin, thank you. And then all in favor? Aye. All right. Let's move on to, thank you so much. Number 7, this is roundtable updates. We just got one from Mohammed. Is there, so we can, that's all the updates you have, correct, for City Bus?
Correct. If anybody has a question, then we can answer it, yes.
Okay, so if there are any questions for City Bus, we can then go around to the agencies in the room. Oh, go ahead.
Oh.
Oh, was it?
Right.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Sorry about that. Let's go to number 6, Countywide Active Transportation Plan. And I believe staff are reporting out on this discussion item.
Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Drew.
I think you through. So yesterday we had a focus group for the Countywide Active Transportation Plan with people, people with living with disabilities. And Colin was there. Thank you so much for joining. So I just wanted to provide a little report out to this group and let you know some things that we heard. And also just remind everyone that, I think it was last fall, we did have a presentation on the Countywide Active Transportation Plan at this committee. We are putting together draft project lists and policies and would be happy to bring back another update. Which in May may be a perfect time, so maybe our next meeting, bring an update on the overall project then. But we're doing these focus groups to really collect input, more on the program and policy sides, looking at barriers for different specific groups of people. So we had 8 participants in our focus group yesterday from various different parts of the county. And we actually heard a lot about transit. So there was, there were a lot of comments about people who may walk or ride a bike or use a mobility device to get somewhere regularly, but having transit as a backup, if maybe they only have the energy to travel using an active transportation mode one way, and would really like a transit trip the other direction. And a few things came up around really having transit as a backup. One being, clear information and easy to find information about when the buses are running. There was some discussion about limited schedules, especially on the weekend. Let's see. I think there were discussions about limited schedules even in the evenings as well. And frequencies, kind of being able to rely on transit as that backup mode of travel. There were definitely a lot of comments about just kind of like limited options for rides in the more smaller cities and more rural areas. And then discussions about taking paratransit for appointments and it being difficult to schedule with paratransit with the wide windows of scheduling, and then also for the volunteer driver programs and the more limited hours that those that exist are available and having to schedule around those.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
For the easy to find info and the limited service on weekends, was that specifically to fixed route then, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
All
that
right.
was
Mhm.
specifically to fixed
Okay.
route. Let's see. Kind of more on the active transportation front, there were some comments about having auditory crossing indicators at all signalized crossings. That's sort of inconsistent throughout the county. And there were some comments about, I think it was referring to the bike share program in Healdsburg, specifically along the Foss Creek pathway, where sometimes people leave bikes kind of in the middle of the walking path, and the need for education on bike parking, and education on etiquette of just using multi-use pathways, to let people know if somebody's walking or using a mobility device and you're passing on a bicycle, how to do that appropriately and know to let people know. I think that there's also some discussion about and also on the volunteer driver programs, driver shortages and having wait lists, and kind of limited availability of those rides. So I think that was it, but yeah, it was a very good discussion, and we got some good feedback that we will work to incorporate into the plan and into program recommendations for the plan.
That's great.
Yeah, so that was all I had. But happy to, for any questions on the project, over on that focus group.
How often do you guys do focus groups? Like what will?
Yeah, so there's we have 3 planned altogether, and
Okay.
we've done 2 of them.
Okay.
And it's really for this phase where we are building up the draft project list, programs and policies.
Mhm.
We had 1 focus group on youth, and we partnered with the Latino service providers and held a meeting in January with their youth program. And then we had this one yesterday on people living with disabilities. And then we're working on scheduling a focus group through Cornerstone Healdsburg, and that will be more focused on people who like work in shift jobs, agriculture, manufacturing, kind of less traditional work schedules and specific barriers around transportation.
And that'll be interesting. That's neat. All right. Any other questions? No, sounds like exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Dana, just know generally what kind of areas they represented?
Yeah, so we had I believe 2 people from Sebastopol, 1 from Healdsburg, 2 from Cloverdale, 2 from Santa Rosa, or maybe kind of just outside of Santa Rosa. Yeah, I think that covers it.
Thanks.
All right. No further discussion. We'll move to number 7. That's roundtable updates, and we can start here in the room.
The district, let's see, current statistics have us at bridge traffic at about 85% of pre-pandemic. There has been a shift to the weekend as opposed to the commute times for that bridge traffic. Our ferry and bus fixed route service are at about 50 to 60% of the pre-pandemic levels. And paratransit still remains at about 50 to 55%. Another announcement for the district, we are in the middle of doing an update to our transition plan, our ADA transition plan for our own facilities. I will be bringing it to the board to request a public meeting at the April board meeting. That meeting should take place before the board meeting in May. I will be disseminating that document to this group and several other groups, quite a few other groups in Sonoma County, Marin County, and San Francisco, all the areas in which we serve and we have facilities. What that covers is any barrier that may exist in any of those facilities, whether it be inward facing only to our own employees or outward facing to the public. Luckily, of the $8 million worth of things we identified, only 2.6 were public facing. So we are going to address those first, and then mainly because we can do a lot internally to avoid barriers. So we're going to aim to work on those first, and I'll be reviewing this annually internally with our maintenance group as well as our advisory committees. So I will get you guys a link to that document. The document is fairly lengthy, as it does cover 1,600 identified things. So anything from a door handle being not high enough or anything physical in our facilities is identified in there. It doesn't cover the bridge itself, the roundhouse or the visitor center, but it does cover the Centerville Transit Center. So if anyone's interested in that, it's an extremely lengthy document. As I said, it's about 400 pages long, and we will get that information to you.
How many pages?
400.
Oh my. Wow.
It took me and the contractors a full week to look at everything.
Not one you want to skim right before the meeting.
No, but there's a nice executive summary.
That's the one.
That's all we
That's
really-
the one.
Unless you really want to read each page. Thank you.
All right. So let me, sorry, Sonoma County.
The most exciting thing recently is, sorry, I don't have any data. Forgot to bring that information about ridership. So I don't have that. Do you have anything off the top of your head? I know both ridership for paratransit and fixed route is up. I don't know what percentage. So, but the most exciting thing is that we received 3 new 35-foot BYD buses recently, and we're getting those outfitted with all the necessary gear for real-time stuff and video cameras and Clipper, put that on the other day. So we hope to have those out in service, which will mostly be in the Rona Park, Cotati area in the next month. Our bus yard, electric charging construction project is on pause through the wet season, and we hope to get that going again later in April. And then hopefully finish it up over the summer. So that'll give us 19 charging stations for all the buses that we have in our fleet that are electric charging. I can't think of anything on the paratransit side other than ridership is up. And you have anything?
I know we're getting a few new paratransit vehicles.
Okay.
I can't remember the exact number, but we're getting
It's 4.
4 new paratransit vans, so that'll be great. Besides that, I can't.
I remember Yuri saying that there were not electric vehicles yet on the market for paratransit. Is that still the case?
It's still okay.
Not for the range that they're there, but they're still the range is very short. So they don't provide an equivalent range that would make it practical for our type of service.
I see.
Countywide service.
Still waiting.
Exactly. All right, I guess I'll report for Petaluma since I'm on here. Ridership is up, but still we're at 54% of our pre-COVID rates, rides for paratransit service. We're still focused right now mainly on getting, or I should say the marketing team is very focused on getting fare free out the door and ready for public consumption. This will include paratransit service. We will be the first operator in the Bay Area to offer free paratransit service. So we're trying to cross as many T's and dot as many I's and get as prepped as possible. But this is a pilot. It'll be a lot of learning. And yeah, so we're really excited about that process. And I just wanted to bring up that, because of one of the comments, Dana, you had about the focus group being concerned about easy to find information under SCTA. All the transit agencies in Sonoma are partnering with SCTA, or I guess you guys are leading the charge for us to have Transit app, which is a great resource for fixed route travelers. So I encourage you to download it. If you ever utilize fixed route service, you get Royale treatment. I like saying that. You get the Royale treatment if you, yeah, exactly. Now it doesn't sound good when you say it like that. It sounded good. It really is. So anyway, check it out. There are a lot of little fun gamification components. You can name your own emoji, all these kind of fun things. So that's a really exciting addition. This past week, speaking again of electric vehicles, we actually had a demo vehicle that was an electric minibus. It's a European by design. It's cute. It's adorable. So cute, but it's not gonna work. Yeah, it's not functional. Our drivers were not as excited about getting in and out of the cab or fitting into the cab, wheelchair. But you know, what's great about us kind of pursuing and looking at these is then we can give feedback, right? So the more we participate, we don't say if it's not ready, but we participate in it. So those are some fun things from Petaluma. Do you want to report for SCTA and then we'll move to mobility partners?
We could.
Yeah, you want
I
to
guess
do
we
that?
have all the transit operators, so we can move on to mobility.
Yeah.
So yeah, at AAA, we are starting our new funding cycle. So every 4 years, we do a needs assessment and then we contract services out to an RFP. And we, one of the programs we fund is the transportation. So we've gone from having 7 funding agencies that we funded for volunteer transportation down to 4, and now we're down to 2. So this, for the next 4-year cycle, we'll be only funding 2 volunteer driver services in Sonoma County. That will be Petaluma People Services and Sebastopol Senior Center. And the reason for that is just funding, you know, with older adults, we all know the population is booming and the needs are incredible. So we have to, you know, rob Peter to pay Paul. So we need Alzheimer's daycare, we need Meals on Wheels, you know, so we have all these needs in our community for our seniors and people with disabilities, but just the funding, you know, like most people, we lost all the emergency funding, so we don't have any more additional funding to keep funding these programs. So just to let you know, it is still one of our top concerns when we did our needs assessment. Transportation, of course, is in the top 5 of what people need. So, you know, it's really a little bit, you know, discerning that, you know, we have less services for a bigger population. But again, it comes down to funding. We only get funding from the Department of Aging to fund these programs. So Older Americans Act is what it comes from. And then the other thing is we're planning to do this transportation webinar in May. Brooke's going to be helping and maybe reaching out to you guys. We're trying to get dates on the calendar so that we can have it, because our community keeps asking for, you know, they want a panel of people and presentations and experts, and so Q&A. And so even if you're not invited to be on the panel, I would invite you all to join. It will be online, it'll be virtual. So just members of the public, nonprofit CBOs, and then just agencies that all in the game for transportation. So that's something that we're planning for May, and that's really all I have.
Kevin, could you tell us a little bit more about the mobility management grant that you received?
So of course.
And got a perfect score on?
Yeah, so we don't know, as you know, Caltrans, if you've ever applied for 50-10 funding or any grant through Caltrans, there's quite a long process. It goes to Caltrans, it goes to NPC, goes to the CTC, I think it is, California Transportation Commission. So anyway, they score the application. So there's a rural component, there's an urban component, there's mobility management and operating. So as adult and aging human services, we applied in all the categories. So rural and urban mobility management, rural and urban operating system. So our mobility management project is to have our INA line, which is 565 info, that where we have bilingual social workers answer the phone. So people need help with, you know, Meals on Wheels, care management, whatever they need. Transportation is a very popular thing. So what we would do is with the grant, we would fund a social worker that would just troubleshoot transportation or just be that resource for transportation. So this person could work with the transit agencies to streamline calls like we call them warm handoffs in social services. So instead of just call 565 whatever, you know, we actually dial them in, get the person on the line, hand them over, you know, give them a little bit about that. So that kind of service, and then depending on how much funding we get, if it's a fully funded ask, we could also troubleshoot some of the needs and gaps and just kind of collect data on where people are calling from, where they want to go to, what services are available, you know, where there are not services available. So that whole function is what our dream would be to have happen. But again, with Caltrans, all we know is that our project got the top score out of the state for the 5310 application. So we're hoping that it'll be funded, but we don't know if it'll be fully funded, because last time we put in the application for 5310, we got a high score, but we didn't get the funding that we asked for, so we couldn't do the project. So yeah, I think the timeline with Caltrans is to let us know sometime March or April. No, now it would be April or May, and then the funding would kick in the fall. Thank you. So, yeah.
Yeah, and the Paratransit group, focus group yesterday, could be the, good to see some representation from different parts of the county that normally don't come to focus groups I've been in. Good to hear about 50% funding, that continue to be a huge need for our community. And then we are going to be holding a big expo. It was formerly a tech expo, in May 17th.
May 17th. Yeah.
If we call it the Tech Expo, we've named it to the Aging and Disability Expo. And it'll be at Becoming Independent instead of shut downs. And registration is open. So if you guys can reach out to me or organization if you guys want to attend. I know Sam was logging, Sam was trying to start attending. So I have get some
What's the deadline to submit if you want to attend or participate?
I would say probably up to late April.
Okay.
And I can give you contact information to get.
Yeah, that would be
Find out.
great. All right. Other comments? Now we're moving to agenda item number 8. Future agenda topics. So I know when I came in to speak with Dina about, hey, what do you want for this? What is this supposed to be? Right? We started talking about maybe that we should think about some different ideas for agendas. I know you've done it in the past, and maybe you can speak to that about the listing and where you originally came up with that. But I know something that I think we're all interested. You also spoke about it last time, was getting more members, right? Getting a lot more folks in the room, or at least online, who can give us that valuable input that that really helps us make really informed choices and decisions. So I don't know if you want to speak more to the work that's already been done in terms of how you've selected agendas items in the past.
Yeah, so, you know, I think that there was a couple of meetings, maybe a year ago or so, where we talked about a number of agenda topics that would be interesting to the group, and we've gone through a lot of those. The state master plan on aging is still on there, and I'd love to follow up with you about it soon to think about a good person to present on that. And then something else that Maria and I talked about is recruitment. But yeah, this is just a space to, you know, if there are things that the group would like to talk about, either at a specific meeting or, you know, at some point in the future, we'd love to just keep a record of those in the agenda, and then we could talk about, you know, when the best time would be to bring it to a meeting. In terms of recruitment, we have been actively recruiting for a while. We have a form on our committee webpage where people can just fill it out and submit an interest form, and then we'll get in touch with them, and then we've been periodically just posting in our newsletters that we're recruiting. We did have someone who was interested, and they didn't hadn't looked at the schedule and actually had a schedule conflict on Tuesday afternoons, so that didn't work out.
I'm wondering if there's something like agencies can do, and then, obviously non-transit agencies. I mean, we obviously have, databases of paratransit clients. We want to, inundate everyone with mailings or something, but I guess I would just ask, like, I don't know what we could potentially do to help recruitment. I thought about reaching out potentially to paratransit clients, but then I was concerned, be a very heavy petaluma if I do some huge marketing campaign. So I don't know, this is a great option to either brainstorm, or maybe we can come back to this of a listing of places, create maybe a flyer or something at least, so that it can be distributed for those who are interested, because it's year round, right? They can join.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anytime really. We just need a little bit of lead time to make a recommendation.
Okay.
And I think that Santa Rosa has some information in their rider guide about this committee.
Okay.
That's another way to get the word out.
Yes, Yuri sent an email to all the user group about this meeting too, so they all know. But the thing is, the response is very weak.
Okay. Right. Right. What are you
Talking to my client.
Any additions, Stephen, or any other, or
So
just
we were. I
rider
like the
guide?
idea of including it in the rider guide.
Yeah.
We're in the process of updating a rider guide right now as well.
Yeah. And we'll update ours as well. I think I tend to think this is a good opportunity for those who, just from my experience, I do customer comments as well. The person who calls in with concerns is also a great person to potentially have, because they care enough to make a phone call. We've all had experience we don't like with services, but rarely do we take them a call. So I think that might be something to consider when we're looking at who's calling in to our agencies. So that's something we can consider. But I think, again, having maybe a flyer might be useful, so that we can distribute it if any of it,
And I know for us, like, we've reached out to our nonprofit partners and our aging services partners, and the problem with the Brown Act is that if you're on the committee, you have to be in person, and that is really difficult for people coming from, all places of the county in the middle of the afternoon. It's just, if there was a way to lobby or advocate for
Right.
change.
Exemptions of some sort for
Yeah, and
disability. You would think
especially
that-
people with disabilities,
Yeah, right.
like older adults, that maybe want to advocate for change or participate in a discussion, but just they don't make it easy.
I'm right on board with you there. I mean, that's what I was just thinking, is that they've got to be here in person, but I mean, what a great use of technology if they could participate virtually. Seems like
Yeah.
we should investigate that further to see if such a piece of legislation is already out there, or they've talked about it, or
Yeah, I believe there's some legislation out there right now.
is there?
Yeah, there's one focus specifically on advisory committees like this as well, so it's in committee right now, so we'll see where it goes. There've been a few over the past couple of years kind of focused on making it easier to use remote participation. So, yeah,
Oh, good.
we'll let you know. So, yeah, we've been advocating for it too. It's important. So across the state.
It's a good quorum,
Right.
That's awesome.
I mean, another thing that I would just offer, if people would rather participate remotely, we don't tend to have a lot of action items at this committee. If people are able to participate, like when there are action items and join via Zoom otherwise, that's definitely an option. Although we do want people to come like at least every other meeting in person, so.
But they would still be able to comment then and. I
Yeah,
mean,
they just still comment
right,
and
exactly.
participate in the meetings, just not. vote.
Is this is bi-monthly, right? This
Yeah.
is
Mhm.
Quarterly. It used to be quarterly,
No, it's always been
but
bi-monthly.
the bike committees, bike and ped.
That's every other month too. Yeah.
Yeah, bike.
There you go. It's climate action committee you were thinking. That's the one.
Gosh,
That's what you were thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agenda planning.
Yes.
Couple of things,
Please.
ideas, and maybe to get engaged others that are us. I mentioned coordinated plan updates. If that's something, that, some of our nonprofit people might be
Mhm.
interested in what's in that or what the recommendations are going to be, if we know anything about that. And the other thing, Maria, you mentioned, age friendly.
Yeah.
Were you talking about Petaluma age friendly?
Petaluma
Okay,
age
'cause They
friendly.
have a whole page on their transportation asks.
Yes.
Yeah, so
And-
that would be a good presentation to talk, what are the city of Petaluma doing? What are they recommending? What are their ideas for improving age
Yes.
friendly? So if you guys don't know age friendly, do you want to?
You can, I mean, I don't know the full history of it, but I've been,
So there's a couple of things age friendly, the World Health Organization has age friendly, so entities can apply to be an age friendly community through the World Health Organization, and then AARP has an age friendly initiative where you can be a city, a county, any jurisdiction and be considered age friendly. And in order to do that, you have to write a plan of what you're gonna do to become an age friendly city. So it could be bike paths, different things, parks and spaces and things like that. So in Sonoma County, the county has an age friendly designation. We applied as a county. And then for our cities, Healdsburg has applied and been approved as an age friendly city. And Petaluma has applied and been approved for age friendly city. And then I've heard recently that Windsor is putting in an application.
that's good.
I
didn't know that.
Age friendly city.
Mm.
So in order to be an age friendly, you have an action plan, a committee, and you come up with initiatives that your city or your jurisdiction is going to work on in all different arenas. Like, for example, in Petaluma, they have housing, age friendly housing, communications technology, transportation, of course, community spaces like park and rec. So that could be just be programs. So it's a number of different civic participation, health and community services. So it's a whole spectrum of things that are considered age friendly. And so it would be good to hear from Petaluma what in transportation wise, at least what they want to do and how they plan to do it.
Yeah, that'd be fun for sure.
You applied countywide. Was that just really on incorporated areas or did it include all the cities?
Well, it's just to be an age friendly county. It's just in application, and then you just come up with a plan of what things you're gonna do for countywide. So it doesn't go into like a lot of details about certain jurisdictions, but it could be like, providing Meals on Wheels, having social services 211, disaster preparedness, like things, and geared towards certain populations, mostly older adults. And for our, for California Department of Aging and Older Adults is age 60 and over. Most, a lot of things define it as age 65 and over, like Medicare, Social Security. But for California, the Department of Aging, all of our programs are for people that are age 60 and over. So that's what our age friendly plan looks like. That is just, providing services and making the county a better place. And they actually score it. So if you went on the AARP website and you could just Google age friendly, they give you a score. Each community has a score. And so you can see what your score is, or Healdsburg or Petaluma, and then they tell you why they come up with that score.
I've only done the transportation side of it, but it's very holistic. So we all sit in a big room and we all try to figure out how to solve their suggestions, and we all work really together, so it's been a really fun, and it's for transportation wise, it's really added a lot of support to some of the things we're doing. Fare free is one of them, microtransit is one of them, and we're also doing something called the I don't like the name, Elder Brigade. But we're starting work on that. So there'll be like a transit specialist for, so like rather than me being the one person in paratransit doing travel training, we would have seniors who would be kind of come and meet with me, very similar to kind of mobility manager, volunteer style, so that they could go and lead programs. And so really excited about the particular one, but I will definitely reach out to maybe Nancy Franklin.
I mean, it's great for collaboration, and if there were ever grant opportunities or, funding opportunities to collaborate, that would be.
Yeah.
great for pilot projects and things.
Great point. I know there was a mention of Smart 2 coming. I don't know if there's anything in particular that,
Well, I'd just be interested in, people with disabilities, like how are they serving them, how many, and
mhm,
if they're not serving them, why, or if there's any data on that in older adults, is it because it's the price, is it too high? And one of the things, when I was sitting down with Brooke today, of course, it's her first day, it's a lot to absorb, but came up about the Clipper card, and so I started looking into the Clipper card, and I've been on this committee forever and I still don't understand the Clipper card. So there's the youth Clipper, the senior Clipper, the RTC Clipper, the Clipper Smart. It's like, what are
Clipper
these
Babe House,
things?
don't forget about Clipper Babe House. I mean, come on.
We went to different websites and we're looking in, Petaluma Transit was the only website we could find that actually has a definition of what these things are. But I still didn't see what the discount is. It just says it's a discounted rate.
Mhm,
But is that 10%? Is it 50%? Is it free? I mean, the whole continuity and clarity of what these things are. And I mean, when I hear from people, especially in our equity priority areas and things, they're like, you need to dumb it down. Like a lot of people don't have a high school education, or they're not English as first language people. And when you start talking about these technologies and these apps and these things, like no one understands it, and just the whole intimidation factor around it, they just walk away. Like they're not going to be riding public transit. Sorry, but that's the truth.
mhm,
So if we want to get more people on public transit, I think, some kind of education campaign, or at least having maybe coming up with a
Mhm.
definition of what that could be, and then having people copy it if they
mhm,
want to, or do in service, or maybe your elder brigade could go around to,
mhm.
this is how you ride the bus. This is what your senior card gets you, and how you get, on whether it's the smart train or the paratransit or the, regular bus. That, those kind of things might help increase ridership if people felt more comfortable and are armed with knowledge about it, instead of being, oh my gosh, it's just too much.
Yeah,
Well, if everyone's too confused to know what it is or know that it exists or to use it, you're not actually providing a service.
You also do an application, making it easier to apply and understand how it applies. I've looked at applications and some kind of confusing, and our community, it's not immediate to me, simple English and easy for them to fill out.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Pretty soon you're gonna be fare free, so that would be a big barrier that,
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the reasons why we didn't end up going with a card-based system. We factored quite a few considerations for doing fare free, because we want to know the numbers and all this, but there's an idea of like, do you pass the barrier on to somebody else, or is that our barrier?
Right.
So that's our barrier. So we'll figure that out and just get on the bus. But we also are a smaller agency, so we have a little more ability.
And the Smart will be fare free for
Yeah, I
youth
forgot.
and seniors starting April
Yeah.
1st. So it's a 18-month pilot, or
believe so.
15 or 18-month pilot.
Yeah. forgot
Like
about
trying
that.
out,
So
so
it'd be great to get advertised if anybody has the flyer or brochure on that, we could put that in our newsletter.
It's great.
yeah, we'll get you some information. We've got there's several agencies that are youth free
Mhm.
right now, and
Veterans.
oh,
Veterans.
Veterans, yeah, that would, anything like that would be helpful, because we'll put it out and broadcast it. I know you usually do the butter and egg day thing, and if there's like a micro transit to get people, that's always helpful too, to get that information out.
Okay, thank you.
One more thing, trip to this meeting is free through the paratransit users. You can add that to the flyer if you want to put it in.
Okay.
I was gonna ask, like, that's a great idea,
Right,
right?
right,
Like,
right.
to get here, we'll get you
Yeah,
here.
totally.
That seems, could we all do that?
Seems like that would be a no-brainer.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a great idea.
That's not fun.
Yeah,
Free paratransit fare
to get here.
Oh,
TPCC.
Mhm.
that makes sense. Similar to if we had in-person assessment.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Right. That's awesome. So again, I think you just continue to think about what matters, right? To the groups you represent, to the things that come up, that it's better to have all of us talking, especially when it comes to things like the educational campaign or different things like that, because again, we can do things isolated within our own agencies, but I think it's really helpful when we're all working together, and that's been kind of the coordination effort we've all been working on pretty consistently. So, all right. Any other future agenda topic ideas now? So in terms of a flyer, what do you think? Do you want uh, us to kind of,
Flyer?
yeah,
Yeah,
like a recruitment
well, I
flyer?
think that, yeah, maybe we could even kind of work through it
Yeah,
in this meeting.
yeah.
If it's,
Okay,
if there's time.
yeah,
On the agenda, and maybe we could come up with, you know, a draft
few drafts,
beforehand,
yeah.
some drafts beforehand, and get ideas.
that'd be great. Yeah.
I think on that flyer, we should definitely make sure that they know that it is a virtual meeting that
Option.
You can, yeah, and
Hybrid.
so that
Yeah.
even if you don't think you want to be a member, participate online. Maybe they eventually would. become a
Um,
member or not.
Yeah, awesome.
Should be something we should really push or promote.
I think snacks definitely need
And
to,
what?
snacks,
I
but
was-
then continue to.
Yeah, no, we need to have, you know, everybody come in with a snack. once a- once a
Oh, I
month.
like it.
Yeah, every other month.
I love it. That's awesome. All right, well then let's go ahead and move on to number 9, agenda item number 9. If there is any other business comments or announcements that we missed, this is your time. All right, and with that, adjourn. Do I get to hit it again? Nice. All right, thanks for going.
Good job.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, wow.
Thank you, guys.
I'm taking this with me.